Welcome to the X Block.
Am I right, Marine? Sir, yes, sir! Then listen up.
You're listening to the X Block. I'm Jared, he's Caleb. Let's get into it.
You are listening to the X Block, episode 10. I'm Jaron, and I'm here with Caleb.
Hey.
And this...
Dude, episode X. It's not episode 10 anymore, dude. Episode X of the X Block.
This is the number one Xbox podcast.
Most likely.
Yeah, most likely. We're getting up there. Every day we get closer to definitively.
Yeah, dude. Shout out to the Xbox 2 podcast, you know? Our humble competitors over there. I know they're pretty big, but probably not as big as us, you know what I mean? Larry Herb, I know you're doing your little thing over there with the official Xbox podcast, but one day you'll get there, babe. Don't worry about it.
So, Caleb, I'm going to start off this week by just asking you what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with me? Well, that's a long story, Jaron. But this week in particular, I got sick, man. Sicker, more sick than I've been in a long time. I don't know if it was food poisoning or my mom thinks it was a virus. She's a CRNA, so she knows more than I do. And I just was sick to my stomach from like Monday, and then I finally got over it pretty much this morning is when I was totally over it. Yesterday, Thursday, from when we're recording this yesterday, I was kind of over it, but I had like what I assume is gastritis, where like your stomach's inflamed and it's like in pain for no reason. Got over that today, and now I feel at like 80% of my usual, which is I'm usually tired, but now I'm really tired.
See, I have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you bought Black Ops and then God made you sick.
Nah, dude, I've probably just been open mouth kissing too many of my homies, but actually with Black Ops though, good point. Way to bring that up. I did buy Black Ops Cold War. Finally.
Yeah, and God punished you.
My friends and I realized, yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm not going to say you're wrong because that would be a lie, but my boys and I were like, Modern Warfare 2019 came out in, believe it or not, 2019, and the updates have kept making it pretty much worse. We're still really good at it, but it's just like, now when you switch sides in multiplayer and search and destroy, it's like, it pops up at the bottom of the screen, switching _sides/MP. Like the actual, like they don't give a fuck about that game anymore, dude. So we were like, if we want to keep playing like Call of Duty or something, we should probably switch over to like Black Ops Cold War before we get too far behind. And so with store credit and everything, I bought like the next gen version for $40 US American. So I'm not buying any of their microtransactions, so that's still good. I'm still in that camp and I never will. But I did buy their new game. It has a campaign. If it didn't have a campaign, I wouldn't have bought it just for the multiplayer. But I'll play the campaign at some point now. And then we've been playing that. And dude, can I tell you something? Hardcore, I say we've been playing that. We barely played it because I've been pretty like ill.
Yep,
so
you got smited.
We haven't really played it that much. But dude, the multiplayer in that game on core, like in core mode, sucks.
Yep.
It takes way too many bullets to kill people. Like 7 or 9 or 8. And people who have the right attachments with the right guns kill you in 3, and so it's not fair at all. But, dude, if you play it in hardcore, game's great.
It's like every Treyarch game.
It's perfect. Yeah, but that's the thing, though. In Modern Warfare, like the recent Modern Warfare 2019, that game seemed to have the same problem with every Call of Duty, where there was some NAT code issues and bullshit where people would shoot you, but on your screen you'd be behind a wall, and on their screen you'd still be in the doorway kind of shit. In this game, it's not. I haven't experienced that. I haven't played hardcore. And I haven't really lagged. I don't think I've lagged once in any way. And I haven't like seen a kill cam or whatever or died where I'm like, oh, on their screen, I was, behind a wall or I was in a doorway, but on my screen, I was totally out of the way. Like that's never happened. So I actually recommend that game if you play hardcore. And you can use like unupgraded ARs, SMGs, whatever the hell, and everything pretty much kills people in one shot. Sometimes two, depending on like the range with an SMG or sidearm. And it's pretty fair. I gotta be honest. We really enjoy, or at least I really enjoy the hardcore, like team deathmatch domination shit in that game. It's really fun.
See, I'm gonna want to hear your thoughts on it in like when you've had 5 to 10 more hours in it, because the first 5 hours of Call of Duty always seems to go super well, almost like they code it so that you get easier opponents and stuff in the first 5 hours that you play the game.
Yeah, I mean. Maybe they do that, but even it's not. That's the thing, though. Is for me, it's just I don't want to brag, humble brag here, but I'm good at shooters and games like Call of Duty in general. So I can actually kill like 8 people in a row and get a chopper gunner pretty regularly and something like domination or TDM because I just look at people, aim, shoot, they die. It's crazy. And when that happens, I can do really well. And no matter how good you are, you still have to outshoot me. That's the beauty of it. Where like in core, if I'm behind you and I shoot you, you can somehow turn around and still kill me, and it's not my fault. And I don't know what to do about that. But no, that's the thing is it's not really as much that way in even Modern Warfare because it's takes so much fewer bullets to kill people and everything. In Core, you don't understand, Black Ops and Core, Cold War, that game takes so many bullets to kill people. It's like World War II.
Oh yeah, Juwan told us that.
Yeah, it's stupid. So you got to play hardcore, but in hardcore it works. It's like you're like, oh, I shot you, you died. Like it's crazy. You just bang, or you're dead. It's like, oh, AR, that guy's 100 yards away, bang, he died, one bullet. It's crazy, and so it's fun. We'll see if you're right, and it does look worse. Even with ray tracing, it looks worse than Modern Warfare 2019, which is funny. The ADS is slower, which is nice for people who are worse than you, because if you're better, and even if your ADS is slower, you usually win a gunfight, in my experience. The game looks worse, but its connection and NAT and shit seems to be better. I don't know how, but that's what I have to say about that.
Is that all you've been playing?
For that game, yeah, I started up Crysis 3 again a bit. I forgot that game actually has a decently good story or lore, and like the sci-fi and everything is pretty cool. And so I only need one more achievement in that game, but it requires me to replay the game to get all the upgrades. Other than that, I played a little bit of Spiritfarer, not as much as I would like, but I still played it so that we could talk about it in our Game Pass or gameplay segment. And other than that, I think that's it. Oh, Rock Band 4. Been playing a little bit of Rock Band 4 and getting through that. I'm just slowly working my way through that game. I play on Expert. Humble brag with the guitar, and it's a fun time.
Yo, that's like my shit.
That's all I've been playing, which it sounds like a lot, but I actually haven't played that much relative to usual weeks because I've been so deathly ill.
That's fair.
What have you been playing, man?
MLB The Show 21.
Oh yeah, I've seen you play.
One achievement away from having the 1,000.
Whoa. Big 1,000.
I just need to make the MLB in Road to the Show mode, which is proving more difficult in this game because for some reason they tied Road to the Show to this mode called Diamond Dynasty. And if you play both modes, then your players progress much faster. But if you just play Road to the Show...
Is Diamond Dynasty... Is it like Duck Dynasty?
No, it's like Ultimate Team.
Okay. It was a good joke, by the way, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I got it. I feel like I would have been more on board, but I'm so grumpy, like everyone in the MLB The Show community about
that's all right.
About the tie-in. They said they're gonna patch it. They're coming out with a patch soon. But essentially, if you just play Road to the Show mode, you're like shafted. Like your player gets
sucks.
like 1 or 2 overall better over the span of like 100 games.
That's a lot of games for baseball.
Yeah, like obviously they go quick because you only like bat 3 times in a game and then it's done. So it like goes quick to the 100 games. But yeah,
well, that's not as bad as I thought.
My guy started from like 54 overall and he's 58 now. And I've played like an entire season and batted like 400, in between 400 and 500 for that entire season. Like if you did that in real life, you would be in the MLB after like 1 season.
Well, in the game, you got to prove yourself to the devs. How much of an MLB fan are you?
The Blue Jays called me up to play spring training. In spring training, I hit 700. So I hit 7 out of 10 times that the ball came, which is unheard of. Like players in the MLB hit like 200 if they're decent and 300 if they're really good. And then they sent me back to AAA because my overall wasn't high enough. Jesus.
So that seems really broken in that game. I don't know a lot about sports, particularly baseball. I actually know a decent amount about other sports, but baseball I'm pretty lame at. And that's interesting to know that mode's kind of fucking broke almost.
Yeah, so they're going to patch it. That's really the only downside with that game. Otherwise, it's decent. But it's like we said last week when we talked about it. It's great if you've never played it before. If you have, then it's the same game as it's been the last 3 years.
Okay.
And then I played Spiritfarer
Sterling
as well.
Okay. I'm glad you played it probably a little bit more than I did. I still played it for a while, but not as much as I would have liked to. But that's for reasons that I will get into more deeply whenever we talk about it.
Yep. I feel like we're going to be pretty similar on that.
Probably.
But I think it's time to hop into Outside the Box.
I'm thinking outside the box,
where we cover all the news you need to know outside the Xbox community. The first story in Outside the Box, a survey has showed how developers feel about unions, the pandemic, and new consoles. So recently, Caleb, we've had GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference. And
indeed,
there was a survey done amongst developers, and GameSpot did a pretty good job of putting together all the things that I thought were relevant. A lot of other sites just cherry-picked like 1 or 2 details, so that's why I chose to read their article by Eddie Makuch,
doing the hard work.
Or something like that. Makuch?
Oh.
I don't know. Eddie.
Makuch.
I'm going to call him Eddie.
McCuck? Eddie McCuck.
I feel like McCuck's bad, but I hope that's not his name.
Okay.
I'm going to call him Eddie. I hope you weren't bullied in school, Eddie.
No, we like your article, by the way.
So some of the interesting things here, that I thought we should touch on. So he says, while studios might have delayed their games due in part to the pandemic, teams also grew their staff, with 47% of those in the survey reporting that their teams grew. Productivity among teams is also improving, with 66% of respondents saying that productivity stayed the same or increased, and that compares to 41%.
Just real quick, shout out to Eddie. You spelled productivity in your article there. You might want to go and edit that.
Yeah, that's true.
When you listen to this.
Okay, I thought I just flubbed it, but that's how I read it. So I was right.
Yeah, it says respondents saying their productivity. So your editor or whoever needs to go in there. Just shout out to GameSpot, by the way.
So something that we noticed here was that beginning with the pandemic, so even though their teams grew and they got more proficient, 44% of surveyed developers said that their games had been delayed due to the health crisis. And that's actually up from 33% from the last survey.
Which was summer 2020.
Yeah, so basically probably GDC last time.
Yeah. Did they have it last year? Or I guess they did, right? They did the survey. I don't know. Fuck it.
So yeah, like games like Gotham Knights, Hogwarts Legacy, and Lord of the Rings, I like how they point all these out. Essentially WB got rid of all their games. Delayed every single one of them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
This is no surprise.
It's interesting to see that even now, when the states are largely coming out of the pandemic, stuff has still been so substantially delayed.
Yeah, it's like that back-end development. When people who weren't made to work remotely had to suddenly work remotely, they just lost probably so much time and energy, you know?
Yeah, they got so far stuck behind last year, and then I guess it just carried over to this year.
Yeah. And these surveys are really cool. It's 3,000 developers, so it's not, it's not everybody, but that's a pretty decent percentage. And all these statistics are always cool to see. But yeah, the fact that the pandemic caused this many developers to delay their games, or this many games to be delayed, that's no surprise. It's just interesting to see the numbers as like in a survey where they're like, oh yeah, we had to push it back because of this. And and then later on in this article as well, they talk about surveying on like revenue shares in digital storefronts. You see that part as well? Yep. It's like there's a long-standing 70-30 revenue share on digital storefronts. And I'll just read what Eddie wrote. He said only 3% of respondents said that this is justified, down from 6%. The question was asked to developers in the wake of calls to change the status quo, which is happening. Google Play recently announced it will reduce its cut from 30% to 15% for the first $1 million in revenue per year. Apple also announced its cut would be reduced to 15% for studios that generate less than $1 million per year. Epic Games, meanwhile, only takes a 12% cut overall. Steam takes 30% but gives discounts for games that make tens of millions of dollars in revenue. So what's interesting is that Google Play reduction is a cut for the first $1 million in revenue, and then same with Apple for the first one, or for games that generate less than $1 million per year.
Yeah, that's the fuck you Epic clause, where they're like, if you're a small studio, then we won't take your money. I like that Steam is the complete opposite, where if you're a small studio, they say, fuck you, give us 30% of your money. But if you're a big studio, you get a discount.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are really interesting. And it's talks in a way where like it says only 3% of respondents say that it's justified, down from 6%. And I find that like, first of all, that's substantial in terms of the 50%, but it's a small number that say it's justified. And I don't want to be a dick about it, but in just my experience, like I personally, on a personal level, think that the developers should get as much money as possible from their game, right? Like, I think that the stores taking less of a cut is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily agree with the idea that they have, like, you don't have a right to that publishing platform. Like, the stores are what publish your products to consumers. Otherwise, you don't publish products to consumers. So the idea that you should, or that you're kind of maybe entitled to as large a cut that's like more than 70%, it's like, well, yeah, but they're the ones that are putting your game out on their platforms. Like, you're not the one making your own platform to publish your game on. So
yeah,
I find that kind of, but I'm for them making more money. I'm just like, I don't agree necessarily with the like 3% of respondents say it's justified. It's like, okay, well, go make your own storefront and publish your game there. See how well it does.
I guess it's harder. I understand why they say it, because if you break it down to the numbers, like that means 70% of the money comes back to the company. And in which case, then probably, if based on those Cyberpunk numbers that we saw, where they gave $29 million to executives and bonuses, to 5 executives, and they gave $28 million to 859 employees. So I see, if you're a game developer, how you look at this and you're kind of frustrated by it, because that 70% means getting a higher percentage of that means that you get probably a more significant like impact to your wallet. where you're probably not getting paid very much. Yeah. And if they gave you guys like an extra 10%, that could be like another $1,000 on your paycheck when you only make $10,000.
That's a good point. And I agree that they should continue, because it's good for them, obviously, to continue pushing publishing platforms or platform holders, whatever, to actually decrease their share of revenue from games that they don't make. But at the same time, I also see where the platform is like, yeah, but we're the ones who put your games on our storefront for people to buy them. That's just my own like personal conflict with it, but I'm still in favor of the developers getting as much money as possible for their product. It's just there is also a publishing or a storefront side to this.
We are going to talk about it later, where because we're going to talk about Microsoft and how they've matched Epic's revenue split, which means that Steam is kind of the only one that isn't in the camp with everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. And then I know on PlayStation, there's still a 70-30 revenue share.
Yeah, which is funny because 44% of those surveyed said PS5 is the platform they are most interested in currently, with Nintendo Switch following at 38%, Xbox X and S at 30%, and PC the most attractive overall with 58%.
Which makes sense. It seems like they're just going where the numbers are in terms of, I guess PS5 is the platform they're most interested in currently. That's because it's the new PlayStation. But obviously PlayStation always sells the most consoles, and then with PC actually being the like highest out of everything because it's not a console. And then Switch is also is probably going to outsell Xbox, and maybe even, I don't know if it's going to outsell PS4 ever, but it's going to outsell something like the Xbox One or probably even the Xbox Series X/S. So that's a thing. But yeah, it is interesting given the revenue cut.
Yeah, so the way that I look at this is 44% of those people surveyed want to work with Sony, and 88% want to work with Microsoft.
Yeah, if you count PC.
Yeah, Xbox and PC. Yeah. And the last thing they touched on that I just wanted to cross over quick also touches on unionization, and only 50% of respondents said they believe the industry should unionize.
51.
Yeah, 51. Yeah. And of that, will it actually happen? Maybe led the way with 43% of the vote. 23% said no, 20% said yes, and 14% said I don't know. So overwhelmingly, most people kind of don't think it's going to happen, or they're like on the fence.
Yeah, I don't know how that would be coordinated per se and how that would work, but good luck to you, I guess. I don't really necessarily see the place for unionization in this particular industry, but maybe people who aren't me know more about it and I'm wrong. Feel free to tell me why, but I mean, good luck. Wish you well.
Yeah, if you want it, you're going to have to go and get it more than 43% of you say maybe, when only 51% of you say they're interested. You're going to have to swing over.
People surveyed as well.
Yeah, those are the guys who are at conferences like busting their ass, and I feel like if only 51% of them are on board, then you're not getting your unions anytime soon.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to talk about there in the union thing that we don't need to get into, particularly like a whole discussion, but it is interesting given the data of like, yeah, it seems most people think it's maybe to not going to happen.
Yeah.
Of the people who are the most hardcore into that. And yeah, so.
Yep. So finishing up with that story, if you want to read more, the survey is published. Just hit up GameSpot's site and they'll give you the link. Yeah. Next up, leaked EA presentation says company is doing everything it can to drive players to FIFA loot boxes. And this story
I saw this, dude.
Was originally broken by my Canadian brethren at the CBC News, thanks to an EA Sports leak document.
I'm pretty sure they're owned by Valnet, who I work for as a freelancer. Pretty sure. Is it CBR or CB? Is CBR, right? Not CBC?
Yeah, I think so, because CBC is the Canadian government's news.
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. CBC Insider. Okay, so it isn't CBR. Never mind. Forget what I said. Totally different.
No worries. So essentially, yeah, this FIFA 21 presentation says FIFA Ultimate Team is labeled the cornerstone of the game, and it even says in it, we are doing everything we can to drive players there. And then EA commented on this and claims the story is sensationalized and misrepresents the facts, and they reiterate the belief that FIFA doesn't involve gambling.
Yeah, what are the quotes in that statement? Or is that whole statement a quote?
That whole statement is their quote.
Okay. Well, yeah, good. Nice job with that stance, boys out there.
Yeah, so it seems like EA got this document leaked, and then they had to come over here and like super hard defend themselves. And apparently CBC sensationalized the story. The normal Canadian news company that probably doesn't even know what video games are. They're sensationalizing the story. The government of Canada funded news network is sensationalizing a video game story. Like if EA wants to get us to, that's even harder to believe than loot boxes don't have anything to do with gambling.
Yeah, I mean, So EA came out and said about this, we always look for, this is I think a quote, we always look for opportunities to introduce more players to modes in our games. Our FIFA players are expecting fresh content that makes the service exciting, so that's a constant focus for us. We do not, quote, push, end quote, people to spend in our games. Where we provide that choice, we are very careful not to promote spending over earning in the game, and the majority of FIFA players never spend money on in-game items. Summer is a very active time in our FUT, so FIFA Ultimate Team community, and we ensure more of our new content and community events in the game are centered there. The new content that we introduce throughout the year includes extensive non-monetized rewards. Decisions to spend are always entirely optional. Nothing in the leaked document contradicts this in any way. It shows how we are supporting engagement in our game during the summer period, not spending. And then they say, we take very seriously our responsibility to provide players a safe and fun experience. We don't encourage young players to spend in our games, and we strongly recommend use of family controls to manage the content that children are allowed to access. Their ability to spend in games and how much time they can play, or their ability to spend in games and how much time they can play. Our EA platform for PC games also includes dedicated child and teen accounts so that all of our players and their parents can make informed choices about blah, 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 blah. So yeah, they wholly deny this, but I'm pretty sure they didn't say that this statement wasn't real. Well, they were just saying that it was misrepresented.
This is the exact slide. So I'm going to read you this and tell me if it's misrepresented. This is the exact slide from the article. Point 1, we have more active players at this point in FIFA than ever. Point 2, the team is squarely focused on engaging current players through mid-September. Point 3, players will be actively messaged plus incentivized to convert throughout the summer. 4, FUT is the cornerstone, so FIFA Ultimate Team.
FUT, yeah.
And we are doing everything we can to drive players there.
Yeah, they are really hunkering down on this whole loot box thing. I mean, you can say that's misrepresented. I don't really think so, man. I think that's pretty straightforward and clear.
I guess what they're mad about is the anonymous CBC inside source said, I don't know why anyone would ever put that in print at the company. And then he says, it's getting harder and harder to defend what is very obviously unregulated gambling.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're talking about specifically. And that they try to say that the publisher's statement to VGC added, quote, we also firmly disagree that FIFA or any of our games involve gambling. Regulators in multiple countries around the world have stated publicly that where there is no cash-out method, loot boxes do not constitute gambling. So that's what their stance is regarding gambling. But
that's also entirely false. Like, many countries have on the other side of that. They just say many countries have done this.
Regulators in multiple countries.
Yeah, regulators in multiple countries of the world. That's like if I said, oh, Caleb, it's fine to commit genocide. Regulators in multiple countries have committed genocide in the past.
I don't know. That's somewhat similar. I get what you're saying. But yeah, it's not a good defense.
Because at the same time as these regulators are saying it's not gambling, many other countries are pushing forward and trying them for gambling and like taking them to court.
I haven't followed the gambling situation with these too much, but I do know there is some hubbub in European countries regarding FIFA and the FIFA Ultimate Team's cards as gambling type shit. And EA is still at the forefront of this, apparently, in their internal documents that are allegedly being leaked by this CBC insider, who is like, yeah, they're just telling us that we're trying to target this shit. And it makes sense for EA in terms of them saying, well, this is how we make the most of our money, ergo we should do this more. It's just not ethically, I don't think, as good of a look. And it's not what players... Maybe some players do want it, I guess, but it just seems manipulative, and I don't know. It's not very great. Not very great optics.
Well, especially when they've previously said that they don't actively push people towards one mode of their game, and then in this slide it says they actively push players towards one mode of their game.
Yeah, it's not good.
Another thing that's not great. Moving on to the next story: Crash Bandicoot devs Toys for Bob is now developing Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah, this shit sucked. Is there any more context to the article beyond the headline? Like, I've read it, but is there anything else relevant that I can't remember?
Activision Blizzard has shared a statement with IGN denying that the company had undergone layoffs, which is weird because...
That's part of the story, that they're saying that people at the studio, Toys for Bob, were laid off. But apparently, I think they responded saying that they hadn't recently laid off people there. So maybe farther back than recently. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I guess Activision as a whole fired people, but I guess they're saying we didn't fire people from this company.
Yeah, I don't know. I think IGN was saying they did from that studio, but I think they're saying that's not true.
And this is also following what happened when Activision recently merged fellow Crash studio Vicarious Visions into Blizzard. So Activision is doing the same thing that they've done the last 10 studios that they've closed, where they take the teams that are working on games and they put them on Call of Duty.
Yes, and it's that Crash 4 game was really good and did really well financially, but not maybe in terms of what Activision sees as good financially. So yeah, they put this studio on support for Warzone, and I don't know what parts of the team are actually useful for that, because the team made a sequel to, it was a 2D, platformer. So I don't necessarily know what it's 2D, right? Not 3D, Crash 4?
Yeah, I think 3D. It's a mix.
It's like it's side scrollers, what I'm trying to say. I think it's mostly a side scrolling platform. It's both, whatever. I don't play it. But anyway, it's a platformer. So I don't know exactly in what capacity some of these developers can actually help on Warzone, but I guess there are some particular more technical roles that can be used to support in that regard on the back end of Warzone. Anywho, it's not good for fans of that studio, I would say, or fans of Crash who are looking for a Crash 5.
Yeah, so is this the end of Crash and Spyro?
I was going to say, it could be like maybe not a total, take back of their thing of making remakes and sequels to like some of their beloved former IP and shit, and instead maybe it's just like a slowdown in that regard. Like they're not going to be doing it as much after Tony Hawk and Spyro and Crash and shit. I don't know, but it's not that great for Crash fans, I would say, who like Toys for Bob, because it doesn't look like they're working on a Crash 5, I would say, now or anytime soon.
Yeah, they literally now have like 8 studios working on one franchise.
Yeah, and it's not even good. People don't even like Warzone. There's always problems. People are hacking the game and breaking it.
Yeah, constantly.
Yes, and there are a lot of articles even saying that the latest Warzone event that made the map, changed the map slightly or whatever, was even underwhelming. I don't play Warzone, and I don't care enough. I know a lot of people do, but I don't think a ton of hardcore gamers super care about it. Maybe casually and tangentially, but it's like, I don't know. It has so many problems. It's so broken. There's an article every week about somebody breaking Warzone and PC players, and another 50,000 people banned for hacking and all sorts of shit. It's just. And now they got this team supporting it, so like maybe that'll improve it for those people. But it's like, well, now Toys for Bob can't do other things. So if you're looking for Toys for Bob to work on other things, and if you're looking for Activision to take a firmer stance on remakes and platformers and more adventurous revisits of their former glory days in the PS2 era, it's like, nah, not happening.
Yep. So there you go. Some more doom and gloom in the game industry.
Activision and EA, man, the fucking pillars of glory and praise in the industry.
Well, these last 2 stories are going to be a little quick, because they're outside the box news, but they're really not that breathtaking or that in-depth. We're going to start with one that broke earlier, which is Konami has announced its withdrawal from the all-digital E3 event due to timing, they say, but then they also claim that they still have multiple things in the works.
Yeah, I should say, Jared and I record this on Friday, and this episode publishes Monday. So as of we're recording this on Friday, this broke a few hours ago, but this is probably a few days old by the time it publishes.
Yeah, that's true. And all I wanted to say about this was what I said on Twitter, so you feel free to go check it out there at XBlock Podcast on Twitter. And all I said was, that's the company equivalent of being like, hey, my girlfriend goes to another school, because
it really is.
That's like what it is. It's like we don't have anything, but we got games. They're coming. They're coming.
They're over there.
They're over there.
We're not based on timing though. Like, what does that mean? Are they in some sort of like IP/acquisition talks with something like a Microsoft or a Sony? What are they saying? We're like, E3 is not the timing.
If they were gonna sell their IPs, then Konami wouldn't have showed them at their own show. They would have just let Microsoft or Sony show them.
It's true, but that's why they're pulling out now. And they're like, but we have things to talk about later. Like, what did they say particularly? What's the quote? It claimed it has a quote, a number of key projects, end quote, in the works, and will provide updates in the coming months. So there you go. Konami, we out. They say, quote, we want to assure our fans that we are in deep development on a number of key projects. So please stay tuned for some updates in the coming months. While we are not participating this year, we have great respect for the ESA and know that 2021 will be a great success.
How did the timing change? How did the timing change in 1 month? They literally said last month they were coming. This month they said they're not. How did every single game they're working on fall through and not be ready?
Dude, it's not ready, Jared. Don't you understand? But they got key projects and they support E3. They're just not going to be there.
All right. And speaking of other things that I found funny, the last topic in Outside the Box, Sony has said it will aggressively invest in its first-party studios during its current fiscal year, in addition to partnering with external game developers on exclusive games. And the reason I found this funny was because Sony's out here and they're like, yo, we're going all in. We're going to invest $184 million.
Extra, yeah, it's 184. I think it's, they say, quote, we intend to increase development personnel and other in-house costs by approximately 2 billion yen, which is $184 million, year on year, as we further strengthen our in-house software. So it's actually $184 million on top of what they usually spend, from what I understand.
Yeah.
This was during their conference call. So, and I guess they're mainly doing that as a thing. They say, quote, to enhance our software offering, we intend to continue investing and partnering with external studios in addition to aggressively investing in our in-house studios. So that's what money's going towards. They're just pumping more money into the first-party games being developed into, and they're trying to reach out for partnerships with, like they did with Jade, is it Jade Raymond? Jane?
Yeah, Jade Raymond.
Jade Raymond. Yeah, Jade Raymond's Haven Entertainment Studio that got started fucking a month ago. Not really, but they really don't. I don't even know what they're doing over there. Like, shout out to that game when it comes out in 5 years. And then whatever the other Firehouse, was that the other one that they partnered with recently?
Yeah,
that they announced
something like that. Some X-Destiny people.
Yeah, X-Destiny, X-Halo. I don't know if it was X-Respawn people, but yeah. They're just doing more of that shit, and they have more money this year to do it, is what they're saying.
Woo. It's $184 million. Like, Microsoft spent $7 billion to invest in future games.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, and it's if you're a PlayStation fan, like, it's good for you, but perhaps you were hoping for them to say, like, $500 million extra dollars, and you'd have been like, what? But now it's kind of like 184, and you're like, oh, that's pretty good.
184
that's
gets
gonna make things better.
Like, pretty much, probably like one more game.
Well, if they reinvest it in just to make their first-party games better, then you can still probably expect some high-quality games from them. Like, did you see the state of play with Ratchet and Clank recently?
Yeah, I saw it.
I watched some of that. It looks pretty good, dude. Like, in terms of, it's not necessarily my kind of game, Ratchet and Clank. I've played them some, but I don't really care that much. But it looks like beautiful as a game, and it looks like if you're into that kind of game, that it's going to be really, really good. So it looks like, depending on what games they're investing more of this money in, they're not putting it all into one thing. Presumably, they're spreading it out, as they said. Probably some of it is going to go to external investments, and then a lot of it's just going to be reinvested into first-party games. It's like, well, if God of War Ragnarok gets an extra $40 million of development, that's not going to hurt it. So good for them, I guess.
Yeah, I saw the state of play. I don't know what it is. I just don't care about Ratchet and Clank. The game can look as good as it wants to look. It's still Ratchet and Clank at the end of the day.
That's me for a lot of games, but that, because that's why I don't play every new game or anything. Where as great as many games can look, I'm just like, first of all, I don't have a PS5, so I wouldn't play it anyway. But second of all, even if I did, it's like, would I spend 30 hours playing Ratchet and Clank? It's like, probably not.
And I saw a decent amount of that on Twitter where people are like, yeah, it's Ratchet and Clank, though.
Yeah, I'd be more into playing Subnautica with you before I would be into playing Ratchet and Clank. The Subnautica sequel that they showed looked kind of... It's a sequel, right? That game looked kind of cool.
And I played the last Ratchet and Clank, dude. Like, I played it, and...
The remake?
Yeah, the remake. It looked good.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
Yeah.
Looked good, though.
No. Yeah, the new one looks good. It looks fun if you're into that. If you're into that kind of game. Believe it or not, it's not Minecraft, and it's not a first-person shooter. So if you're into a game that's like Ratchet and Clank, have fun. But yeah, this investment will make their games better, and that's good if you're into that.
Yep. All right. Finishing up with Outside the Box. Now moving on to the review roundup.
In a world where reviews are too long to read and review videos are too long to watch, one man will compile all of the reviews and turn them into one easily digestible stream of information. This is the Review Roundup.
And something I just wanted to say quick for the review roundup this time. So there's nothing really here that I wanted to talk about this week, but a game did come out. It was called Judgment. It's from the Yakuza creators. And it's kind of a port of an old PS4 game. And it got a lot of high reviews, but it wasn't something that Caleb and I would be interested in. So if you guys want us to talk about that, hit us up on Twitter at XBlockPodcast. And
yeah, let us know.
Yeah, we'll think about it next time.
Yeah, and I mean, from all I've heard, I haven't looked at the real reviews of this, but my favorite Twitch streamer, or one of my favorite Twitch streamers, Ray Narvaez Jr., he played it on stream recently and beat it, and he's a big Yakuza fan, and he says that it's like in his top, I don't know if he said 3 or 4 of the Yakuza games, but he really loved it, and he's a Yakuza fan. So if you're a Yakuza fan, I can't imagine that you wouldn't love this game, and that's his review of it.
Yep.
So there you go.
And there you go. That's the end of the review roundup. It was a short one today.
Yeah, you can't win them all, Jaren. There's not a ton of shit every week, especially with games getting delayed by 44%.
Yeah. Oh, Returnal came out, but it's PlayStation, so I don't care. Moving on.
Oh yeah, and those are some reviews, but you can read up on those. But that's not a Xbox game or a third-party game, so
yeah. So too bad.
You won't find it here.
Moving on to the X Block. Quite a bit of news in the X Block today. Starting off with big numbers coming out of Microsoft, Caleb.
Big numbers, dude, like X.
Yeah, dude. Big
Because this is episode X of the X
numbers.
Block.
Episode X of the X Block, dude. We've got the X going. Microsoft's gaming business reports a 50% jump in quarterly revenue. You know,
that's X-worthy.
All things. And you know what I heard after they...
I just want to say, can I say real quick? I love what you tweeted out on Twitter when this article dropped earlier this week. You said Microsoft's gaming business reports a 50% jump in quarterly revenue. And then you tagged the tweet and you're like, this is probably because of us, right? Like with our Xbox podcast, probably directly related. And I'm like, yeah, dude, probably is.
So just to break it down a little, gaming revenue grew 50%, up 48% CC. Xbox content and services revenue grew 34%, driven by strength from third-party titles, Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, and first-party titles. And Xbox hardware grew 232%, driven by... Hardware revenue grew 232%, driven by continued demand for Xbox Series X and S. And after all of this, Caleb, how many questions do you think were asked about Xbox at the Microsoft's quarterly review meeting?
Well, unfortunately, I can't guess because I've already seen this news, and that's that at this meeting, no one had any follow-up questions about that because no one at Xbox or no one at Microsoft gives a flying fuck about Xbox. And that's what I always tell people. When I tell you on this show, and I've told you for weeks, when I say that the people at Microsoft, that the whole industry is run by two people at a desk, in the very back of the room where it's illy lit and you don't want to go over there because it's shady and you're like, I don't even know about those people. Frank's been there I don't even see him go home. What do I do about that guy? That's Xbox, dude. They don't give a flying fuck,
Yep. So there's not really much more to say about that. Good thing Xbox is doing well.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little bit. Obviously console launch very big for them. Game Pass growing substantially, so that's revenue's up a lot. And they say that in this VGC article, the VGC article says Microsoft said gaming revenue and Xbox content and services revenue, quote, include ZeniMax, end quote. Bethesda's parent company, which was acquired by Microsoft earlier last year. So yeah, the ZeniMax revenue is also a big part of that increase because they are counting revenue from all of ZeniMax's properties in that increase.
Yeah, but only in the time that these numbers are from.
But still, that's with their online services and a bunch of other things. It's just there was no way this wouldn't be bangers for Xbox as well as PlayStation and these financial quarterly reviews and shit. It's a lot going on. New hardware, new games, Bethesda or ZeniMax being put into these numbers. It's just
that's true.
All great.
That's the benefit of you buying the cow. You get to put their numbers in your earnings call.
Exactly. That's why Sony can only invest in these short-term exclusives, which are good for them on their console, but Xbox is just we're gonna buy shit. And hopefully this year, maybe E3, as tradition dictates, maybe Phil will walk up on stage and announce 5 more acquisitions.
Next up in the X Block, the return of the rumor wire, Caleb.
Oh, dude, the rumor wire is back? Yes, dude.
Yep. And there's a quick one about Elden Ring at E3, but neither Caleb or I care about Elden Ring, so we're going to skip that.
Yeah, I don't care.
One that we do care about, Forza Horizon 5, supposedly going to be set in Mexico.
Yes. So with this happened, a lot of these rumors were compiled by a website, Windows Central. And in the article for their compilation of some of these rumors, they say, where is it at? This person who writes for them, Jez Corden, said, I really want to visit Mexico someday, with a Mexican flag emoji and a car emoji. And then he says, well, I won't necessarily be confirming that Forza Horizon 5 is set in Mexico. It's certainly... Well, hold on. Let me go back. While many the article says, while many folks on Twitter just seemed generally confused by Jez's travel interests, others like Jeff Grubb immediately jumped on the tease and added more fuel to the speculation fire. So basically, there's a lot going on where people are thinking that Forza Horizon 5 is going to be set maybe in Mexico, where you'll be able to explore, I don't know, the just cartel-ridden landscape of Mexico and visit your favorite Mayan ruins and whatever the hell. But and people are speculating that this will launch possibly in fall 2021.
Yep.
So they could announce it at E3.
It sounds like it comes out before 8.
Yeah, which I wasn't expecting, but the more that I think about it, and given that Playground Games is split as a studio, it kind of does make sense since Forza Motorsport 8 is apparently so early in development. But yeah, it looks like this year we may actually see a Forza Horizon 5 announcement at E3.
Yeah, see, what made me more believable in this is when I read how far people thought Fable was away. People were saying 2 to 3 years for Fable, which
could be,
which made me think, okay, so Playground's been focusing on Horizon then. And then we got these like rumors for Horizon 5.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought Fable would come out sooner, but the more that I've kind of read up on it and thought about it, it's like, yeah, it seems that the Forza Horizon 5 has actually been in development for longer. I thought it was on their back burner while they worked on Fable, but it seems that it's not been the case. And these are just rumors, but the rumor mainly is that Forza Horizon 5 is probably set in Mexico, people are saying, instead of Japan, and that it will maybe announce at E3 with the release date this fall, which would be a good first-party game for Xbox.
And it's from like actual insiders, like good insiders that have lots of connections and credit.
Yes. So it's still a rumor, but keep an eye out. And if it is, even though Forza Horizon is a racing game, and racing games are traditionally considered more niche, it's good for the Xbox brand to release something like that. And actually, a lot of people play these games.
Yeah, the Horizon
more than you would
games.
think.
The last one,
not the motorsport.
I think did 10 million copies in its first, was it like 5 or 6 months?
Something like that. But especially with release on PC, and Xbox, both of them, it's going to sell a lot of units, or not even sell a lot of units, but also get a lot of players because of Game Pass. But
yeah, and Horizon 2 shot up to the top of the charts, or the second on the charts on Steam when it was released. So clearly people like these games.
Yeah, they're bigger than you would think. Still not as big as like a Halo, but still the Horizon series is getting more and more popular, and it's a pretty big game if it releases this fall.
Yep. The next rumor, Starfield release date, Xbox exclusivity.
Okay, and what's going on here with this rumor?
So the biggest question among fans right now are if Starfield will be dropping in 2021, and will this be Bethesda's first big Xbox exclusive? And some trusted members of the Xbox community seem to think so. So they have a tweet here from like Mr. Matty Plays where he's like pointing out that ZeniMax has like locked up the trademark for Starfield, which is usually done, as he points out, by Bethesda in the year that the game is going to come out.
Yeah, they usually put their date at the bottom of their websites for when the game's going to come out, the trademark.
Yep. And then, so that kind of hints towards it being 2021. But you may say, but what about Xbox exclusivity? So there are definitely some vocal members of the community confident that Starfield will only release on Xbox platforms. In a recent episode of Xbox 2, Rand L. Thor 19 re-emphasized his belief in Starfield's Xbox exclusivity. Rand certainly isn't the only trusted member of the community adamant in this idea.
Yeah, and those words come from Miles Dompier at Windows Central, once again, giving them credit.
There you go. But unfortunately, still a rumor. So we're not 100% sure. But from insiders, it sounds like this game's going to be an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, it just seems that way. And we would think so based on what Phil has vaguely said about shit multiple times in the past year or less. So there you go. And it's just in the air, right? Like we feel like this game's going to be announced at shown off rather at E3. And it could get delayed, out of fall, even if they try for a fall or holiday release date for Starfield. But it seems like they're gonna show it off at E3. Like it's almost like they have to. Like, where's this game been? Like if you don't have anything to show this year at E3, what's even going on with the game at that point?
Well, yeah, everyone assumes they're doing the Bethesda thing, where the Bethesda Softworks thing, where they announce the game at E3 4 months before it comes out.
Yeah, it's time though. Like if they don't even talk about it this year, it's like, well, what's going on with the game?
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, so we should see it at E3, hopefully. Rumor.
In the last of the rumors in this segment, IO Interactive, Xbox, and Project Dragon. So essentially what's happened here is, in the latest episode of Xbox Rumor Report, Windows Central discussed that Xbox was potentially partnering with 4 AAA third-party studios to develop and prototype Xbox exclusives under the Xbox Game Studios publishing banner. Outside of the Cyclone teases, though, we didn't really drop much in the way of specifics. However, some newly uncovered information points to possible collaboration between IO Interactive, Xbox, and Dragons. So essentially, what's happened here is there's been a rumor that's come out. It's in very early talks if this game is real. And it's that there's been, I guess, a decision now on the table, and IO Interactive is going to be proceeding with a fantasy RPG for Xbox that's going to be exclusive.
Yeah, which would be very interesting for them as a studio to do, with them working on, what all are they working on now? Indiana Jones, is that them?
No, it's
John Bond.
It's
That's Bond.
John Bond.
Right? John Bond. It's John Bond. And what else are they working on, though?
They're making James
Isn't
Bond.
It something else?
Well, it was James Bond Hitman 3, and they said an unannounced IP. That's what they said before. So this could be the unannounced IP.
Yeah, okay. So it's only 2 things, though. Because I'm going to say they're not making a third game.
No, I don't think they they said that they didn't have anything in Hitman in the works the last time we talked about them. It was James Bond was their main project that they're, like, I assume a little bit into because they announced it with, like, a logo and all that kind of stuff, and it's set. So I assume they're at least, like, 1 year, maybe 1.5 years in on that. So this game is just starting, and this came after they opened a new studio. And they started like hiring a bunch of people and diverting people to that new studio. So I assume that new studio is probably working on this game. That would be my guess.
This is from this Windows Central article as well. They say in a recent interview with GameIndustry.biz, iOwner CEO Hakan Abrak, I think is how you say that, shared some exciting details about the future plans for this developer and confirmed that outside of the 007 project, a separate team is busy working on a new, quote, love child, end quote, IP with veteran staff. And so, yes, this is what people are assuming based on rumors and other things from like Jez Corden and people in the industry that this is a medieval game, maybe RPG with dragons that is going to be kind of like with the Netflix approach to like Xbox is going to publish this on Game Pass, we assume, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's a rumor. We'll see if that's true. That game has got to be far the fuck out if it is.
Yeah, minimum of 4 years.
I don't know, man. Maybe not that long, but until we see some of it.
Well, if it's an RPG, it could be that long, especially if they've never made one before.
Yeah, we don't know, but with them working on James Bond as well, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a rumor though.
I guess they do have 2 full studios now, so they can do 2 things at once.
Can I just say something though? If we're right in 2 to 3 years and they show this off, hit us up at XBlock Podcast and be like, boys, you were right, and we'll be like, oh yeah,
oh yeah. We won't remember it because we will have recorded like 100 something shows by then, but you know.
Yeah, hit us.
Thanks for letting us know.
We'll be like, dude, you remember 2 years ago, boys? 3 years ago, we said this on the podcast. You were right, and we're gonna be like, yeah, we were. And then I'm gonna message Jared and be like, dude, what the fuck are they talking about?
The last topic in the rumor wire: it looks like 50 plus FPS boosts are coming to Xbox Series X and S this week, and this comes from Idle Sloth and Tom Warren, who's a big Xbox insider. So Tom kind of put it out first. He said 50 plus new games with FPS boost. And then the Clobril guy also followed it up and said, you need that meme for next week, save it. So they're both 2 pretty big Xbox insiders. And this is kind of just more good things for people who own next-gen consoles.
Yeah, and it looks like this one's real. This episode will publish on Monday. So either then or later in the week, you might hear about this. If we're wrong, then that's why it's a rumor and not news, per se. So
yep, this is kind of a quick one.
Then yeah, moving on.
Moving on to the next thing. And we're already running kind of long on this episode because we're slow at the start. So we're going to try to speed through a couple of these, except the Halo block. That needs its full attention.
Spoilers.
Xbox Game Pass news. Basically, some quick announcements for you guys. FIFA 21, May 6th, coming to Game Pass. Dragon Quest Builders, May 4th, coming to Game Pass. Knockout City, May 21st, actually launching in Game Pass. It's a dodgeball. It's that dodgeball game we talked about last week. Looks pretty dope. We'll have to give that a shot if the achievements are at least not going to eat our lunch.
I already forgot about that. But yeah, and for FIFA, though, is that launching into Game Pass Ultimate via EA Play, or is that launching straight into Game Pass? Okay. So you have to have Game Pass Ultimate for that.
Yeah. And now, the Halo block.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Caleb G with your favorite podcast within a podcast, the Halo block, returning once again when there's relevant Halo news to talk about, particularly usually relating to Halo Infinite and news that's coming out about that as we anticipate its release, hopefully this holiday season, barring any sort of tragedy if it gets delayed. But yes, the 343 Industries released their monthly Halo Infinite update on their blog, and this one was all about PC. So if you're a big PC Halo boy out there, you got some good news coming for you. There's going to be cross-play and cross-progression, which is good for both console players and PC players, I guess, if you're into that. They talk about, though, how they're looking to do that kind of shit. I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but they're trying to, I guess you would say, place players in terms of their input, as in, like, controller versus keyboard and mouse, rather than the platform they're playing on. And that is because they feel like that's more actually representative of like players' skill than with like aim assist and keyboard and mouse or keyboard and mouse aiming versus just the platform it's running on. I don't know how true I feel about that or how much I feel about that, but that's what it seems like they're going to be focusing on. I'm not going to be playing Halo on PC, so this is kind of all really news that I would least care about usually based on these Halo Infinite updates. It's all gravy. It really is. And so they released some high-end graphic settings and shit, and they talked about how they're going to have super ultra-wide support for the game, which is going to be able to do upwards of 32 by 9 or higher, apparently, which is crazy, and I don't know why you want to play that way, but whatever. They released a lot of new screenshots of Halo Infinite the game looks way better in terms of the lighting and effects. They're in this Forerunner facility underground. They showed off the Jackal and the Banished armor, so this is like a little more niche stuff, but is somehow more relevant to me and stuff that I care about more since I'm not a super huge PC nerd. But they showed off the Jackal and the Banished armor, so that's kind of cool if you're into that, and some grunts. And they showed off a Brute running, and dude, the Brute had a beard. So everybody was like, what? Because it has a beard like the Halo 3 Brutes, and we're like, that's cool. And so you got that going on. They showed off another screenshot of a vista, basically, of the outside of the Halo ring. And it's actually really cool, Jaren. You know why? Because if you look really, really deep into the image, you notice the outline and the color scheme of a thing that looks just like a Halo Wars 2 fucking Brute Banished chopper.
Ooh.
You know the vehicle, the chopper?
Ooh.
From Halo 3?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so the chopper... Yeah,
I'm
you
excited.
do, Jaren. Just think about it. Yeah, anyway, the chopper's making a return, it seems. People are speculating. They're like, you look deep, and you're like, that's a chopper, dude. I think I see it. I think I see it right there. So chopper, and that makes sense given that it's an open world game with a huge map. Seems like the chopper's making a return. That's going to be fun to play with. Just run over things and that shit. And they say that they've been working on the PC port for a long time and that they've been developing with it in mind. They're going to have support for ultra-wide and super ultra-wide screens, triple keybinds, quote, wide variety, end quote, of graphics options, quote, and more, end quote. So big PC update on Halo Infinite. And then there was one other thing that they talked about, and this comes from GameSpot. This was written by Eddie McCush. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Eddie.
I apologize, Eddie. They talked about some beta plans for the game. They say beta. This is under the tagline "Beta tests coming," and it says Halo Live producer Sam Hinshaw said in the blog post that 343 is currently holding beta tests for Halo Infinite with a quote very small external group representing a variety of backgrounds, end quote. Hinshaw said it's been a delight to watch people from outside the studio play Halo Infinite for the first time. Hinshaw also teased that Halo Infinite public beta tests might be coming soon. Or might be coming, so you should update your Halo Insider profile. So basically, fucking 10 people, probably children, as Jared and I kind of talked about one time before the show, are playing Halo Infinite and testing it, and so it's out in the wild a bit, I guess, quote-unquote, the wild. And then Hinshaw said, quote, the feedback we've been getting has been heartening in many areas and impactful in others. Seeing a turnaround in opinion based on changes is truly gratifying. Rest assured, now that we've gotten our feet wet over the last couple of months, we're progressing towards expanding playtesting opportunities as soon as we can. So keep those Halo Insider profiles updated, end quote. So there you go. Look forward for a Halo Infinite beta soon. Hopefully E3. I think they talked about how they're going to have more to show at E3 this year because people are somewhat tired, they recognize, of seeing screenshots and other things.
Yep.
And they're probably going to have some sort of extended gameplay demo update actually at E3 this year. You would assume, given that the game's launching in the fall. That would make sense too. So get excited for that, and maybe the beta will launch then. So if you're a Halo Insider or you want to get on that, get in on that and look forward to it. And then last thing, there was some news announced that I think since Halo MCC launched on PC it was at the end of 2019, I think, they have had 10 million players on PC, 10 million. And they said that most of those people, they didn't release numbers, but they said most of those 10 million people are new to the franchise.
Ooh.
So there you go.
All right.
That's fucking
Halo
huge
back.
For a compilation of 6 games that came out in 2010 or before.
Yeah, half the people probably weren't alive.
And it's just old Halo games. The Bungie Halo games that they put out on PC and they say over 10 million because obviously Game Pass, but then you also include Steam numbers in there, so people bought the game as well. And yeah, dude, 10 million new people almost playing Halo. That's pretty sweet, and that bodes well for players on Halo Infinite.
Yep.
Especially considering that it will that they said that the multiplayer component will be free to play. So expect big numbers for Halo Infinite. And that is all I have this week for the Halo block, your podcast within a podcast. I'm out.
Jaren's key takeaways. Brutes have beards. There's a chopper in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's feet are wet.
Uh-huh.
Millions of people bought the game. New players.
Those are your bullet points. Yes. Or played the game.
Or played it.
But also bought, because Steam, so you would assume
somebody
both.
Played it. A lot of them.
Somebody bought it.
Next up,
big Halo news update.
Some quick PC news. I don't want to dwell on this too much because we're an Xbox podcast, not a PC podcast.
Amen.
Microsoft says it will reduce the cut it takes from PC game sales to match Epic. That's pretty self-explanatory. That came from their earnings call.
They dropped it a lot, though. Is it from 30% to 12%?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, they're matching Epic's 88-12.
That's pretty big for them, though. Like, it's kind of small news, but then you think that they're cutting their revenue by over 50% on that shit, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I guess they realize they don't give it too much shit about the Windows Store. They're like, just buy Game Pass.
Yeah, they don't, and It's a good PR move, but for them in terms of a company trying to generate revenue, they're really trying to incentivize more developers to put their shit on there, because that's a pretty substantial percentage-wise cut for them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
On a per-game basis.
It's crazy how one day they're super nice to Steam, and then the other day they fuck them in the ass.
A little bit, man.
But somehow Steam's fine with it. Like, Steam hates Epic.
Steam's so big, they don't care, and they do hate Epic more than they hate Microsoft, I assume.
Like, they hate Epic. Microsoft does all the same things as Epic does, and Steam goes, nah, you're fine. But I guess Microsoft gives Steam games and doesn't steal them from Steam, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, like when those people bought Microsoft or MCC on Steam, they, Valve got a cut of that. So.
Yeah, so they're like, cool, we get our money that way, we don't give a shit. The last PC thing, Microsoft fixes Windows 10 update that hit game performance. So that's cool. Windows 10 was kind of fucking some game performance for some people, and people made a fuss. They fixed it. That's how consumer and business relations are supposed to work.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that besides, GG.
Yep. And the last story in the X block, Stalker 2 would be impossible to run on Xbox One, says Dev. So if you want to break that down, that means it's only coming out on the Series X and S. And by only coming out on the Series X and S, I do mean only coming out on it, because the developer also said no plans to bring Stalker 2 to PlayStation 5.
What about PC?
I assume it'll come to PC as well. I guess I should have said Microsoft platforms.
There you go. That's pretty cool, dude. Jaron and I over here at the X Block looking forward to Stalker 2 a lot. Very excited for that game.
The X Factor discussion. Now that we've moved past the X block, we're now driving into the X Factor discussion. And for this week, I want to try something a little different, Caleb.
What's that, man?
So I want to take our thoughts on Spiritfarer and make it our X Factor discussion for this week, and then we can just spin the wheel in Game Pass or gameplay and talk about the next game.
Okay. I'm down with that, because that kind of spreads it out, and this episode's running a little bit long anyway, I think. And I'll let you lead off with Spiritfarer and kind of what you thought about it.
Yeah, so I played somewhere between 5...
Wait, time out. We should give the audience a bit of a primer. Jared and I have a segment called Game Pass or Gameplay, where every month, on the first episode of every month, Jared and I review a game that we had to, what we do is we spin a wheel, right? And then of random Game Pass games, all of them, except for ones that we have either already played or are duplicates like sports games where there's like 19 of them. And we land on one, and Jaron and I then play it and review it. And that happens every time on the first episode of the month that airs. And so this is one of those episodes. Last month, we spun Spiritfarer, and we played that on Xbox Game Pass. And now Jaron and I, maybe not beat it. I didn't beat it. Depending on what it is, we just played enough to review it, and then Jaron and I talk about it. So here it is. Spiritfarer from your boy Jaron Kerr from the X Block Podcast.
I played 5 to 10 hours, somewhere between there of it.
It's way more than me.
And I pretty much have very similar thoughts to what I thought the last week. Like, I see where reviewers like it. I like the whole progression loop of driving the boat to each place that you want to go to, having to pick up materials along the way, meeting new people, building different structures on your boat and expanding your boat. I got to expand my boat a few times with that dude in the boat harbor that you meet. So I expanded my boat.
Yeah, I went to a shark guy.
Yeah, yep. I went to different places, and everything that people said about it is true. It's like a touching game. I like the movement in the game. The art style's gorgeous, but it's just not my kind of game.
That's exactly right, Jaron. So I played this game as well, and for those of you who don't know, Spiritfarer being pretty highly reviewed and praised by game outlets. I think IGN gave it a 9, and other places gave it various other reviews that are in the high. Some people giving it a 10. And basically, what it is it's kind of like a platformer, but but the game functions as more of a Animal Crossing type of game, or like a Stardew Valley kind of game, where it's like you basically just, it's not really grind, but you get a lot of resources, and there's sort of a point. Let me back up a bit. The point of the game is that you start off on this boat. I think your character's name is Stella, or is it Strella?
Stella, I think.
Stella? Okay, well, it's Stella, and you start on a boat with your this cat companion, Dandelion, who I think you can play with in local co-op. And then you meet Karen, who is I don't know if it's the Roman or Greek, god of the afterlife that ferries your soul to the afterlife. And he's like, yo, you have my job now. And then you get his job to ferry spirits to the afterlife. And what the game is you get a boat, first of all, and you meet this deer person. Do you remember what that person's name is? That fucking deer that you meet?
Dude, I have no idea what anyone's names were.
Me either, man, because there's no talking, and so they don't say it a lot, and I don't care. Yeah. So there's this like deer person you meet who I really hate how that person looks because it looks like a furry, you know, and it just grosses me out and I hate it. And so it's like a little too humanoid of an animal, you know, where you're like, I don't like that. And anyway, this person meets you and they kind of guide you through like the tutorials of the game and all these things. And you start building. Basically, the point of the game is you build houses and structures on your boat that you sail around. You pick up different characters who you then have like quests with that you want to gather shit, and then you got to take care of them and do a bunch of things. And it's, I don't know, I could write about this game a little better, but kind of talking about it off the cuff, it's kind of difficult to describe. But basically, it's like a management type of game. It's like you just manage a bunch of things, and then eventually you can ferry these spirits to the afterlife. And the game can take you, I don't know, I didn't even beat it. I didn't even play it like that long, more than like 2 or 3 hours or some shit. Partly because I was dying this week, and I shouldn't have waited till this week to play it, but I didn't expect to get deathly ill, and so I played it. The art style is beautiful, like I'll say that. The art style, how the game looks, the lighting, it's very picturesque, like almost like a picture book, like a 2D kids picture book that almost looks cut out and like pasted on it, but in a very, I can't describe it, beautiful way with a very beautiful color palette. And you play as this, like I said, Stella, and you jump around from like, it's the game's entire movement structure is just you moving around. You hold, I think it's A to jump higher, you like hold X to interact with a bunch of things, and you go and collect shit, like you need to get corn to feed Stella because Stella's getting hungry, or not Stella, the deer, I don't know the name, is getting hungry.
Yeah,
and
anytime you pick up people, you like any different people along the way, they all have different things that they're into. So some people are into like coffee, like the deer lady is. She really likes black coffee, and she's down with a hug every once in a while. That makes her happy. And other people,
you use the map.
Yeah, other people like other kinds of food. So you have to like slowly progress like the garden and shit that you build. So the one comparison, how you didn't say there was quite a comparison for it. One thing I will say is it's kind of like Stardew Valley meets Wind Waker.
Okay, yeah, like Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
Yeah, where you're like on your boat, you're constantly like traveling around, but then you're also like managing a town essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah, you have a map in the ship that you go to. As you set a place on the map, you sail there, but you sail there in like real time, quote unquote. So you have a certain amount of time to do things and do your management shit as you go from island to island. And different islands have different resources and things. And you can fish off the back of the boat, which I started laughing at because I knew Jaren was in the world somewhere laughing at me as I was doing it.
As soon as I started, as soon as the game was like, yo, go fish off the boat, I was like, this is why we got this fucking game.
I started fishing off the back of the boat. I didn't want you to, I wanted to close my windows in real life. I was like, Jaren's out there fucking watching me fish, laughing at me. And so that's a big part of the game. And you just travel, and it's supposed to be chill, and you ferry spirits, and there's lights, and there's all this shit. And it is not my kind of game. I get why people like it. I get why people highly reviewed it. And I looked at some of the reviews and what other people said as well. And I was like, yeah, I don't like this game near as much as these people do. I didn't want to play it any longer. It is not my kind of game. If you're a person who loves Stardew Valley and you love Animal Crossing, I wouldn't even necessarily say like, although you may be more inclined to like this game if you like those games. But if you love this game, then you should like Spiritfarer. If you don't, and you're more of a kinetic person who likes the traditional kind of, I don't know, 2D platformers that are more action-oriented, and first-person shooters and third-person shooters and role-playing games and shit, I don't know. It's really going to depend on your personality whether you like this game or not, but I don't think you will, personally. It's very boring for me. It's very pretty to look at. It's a lot of management and just getting materials. And I'm like, but it's not fun like Minecraft is to me. So I don't know.
So are you giving it a pass?
I'm giving it a pass, man. I'm giving it a pass, but with a nod of understanding that we have differences, and I accept those differences, but I respect them, you know? I respect Spiritfarer. I just don't agree with it.
I'm conflicted. But
well, if you wouldn't recommend it to somebody, really, you should give it a pass, right?
See, I'm conflicted because I would recommend it to certain people that I like, that I'm currently friends with and hang out all the time, who I know would like be a fan of this kind of game.
Maybe Jaren would say try it. Maybe gameplay it and just try it out.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a play, because this is Game Pass. If this was a game where I had to tell you whether to spend your hard-earned money on it, personally coming from me, I don't like it, so I would say pass. But I also feel like maybe if I was in a different headspace into what kind of games I'm currently playing, that I might have enjoyed this game a little bit more, because I did like parts of it. I enjoyed some of the writing. I didn't really mind going around in the boat. Like, it was a pretty chill, and I kind of enjoyed just what was like as I was slowly going along.
I just wanted to play the whole time. I just wanted to play something else, though, for me.
Yeah, which is totally cool. Like, I get why you're giving it a pass. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more. Not enough to, like, continue playing it at this current moment. Yeah. But I feel like if I'm down the line thinking about a kind of game like this, that I could see myself going back to it. So I might, so I'm going to give it a play for that reason.
Okay. Well, then there you go. And people, from what I heard in the reviews, I didn't beat it, but apparently it takes... First of all, apparently it's not about beating the game. It's about just playing the game and experiencing it and chilling out and just doing your management and not taking anything too seriously in the game. I don't think there's any fail state or anything like that either. It's just like you take it easy and you go about sailing on your boat, ferrying spirits. But I think if you want to beat it though, quote unquote, it takes like 20 hours.
Yeah, that's what I read.
I don't know how long it takes to get all the achievements.
Like 40 to 50, I think is what True Achievement said.
So there you go. If you're into that, I mean, I'm just gonna, for the sake of having a little bit of difference here, and because I kind of do believe it, I would say pass on it. For me, go play something else. But I respect you nonetheless, Spiritfarer. But if you're in Jaren's camp, Jaren says, nah. If you have Game Pass, give it a shot. See if it's up your alley. See if you like it. It might just be.
Yeah, so being this being our first split decision, we've kind of been on the same page for the last two. We're a little divided on this one. When games are split, I'm going to lead towards what kind of the both of us are leaning towards. So as a whole, I'm going to say the podcast gives it a pass.
Okay. And we don't think it's a bad game. I don't think either of us think it's a bad game. It's just that it's definitely not for everybody.
So our podcast stance would be a pass, but like I would recommend it to specific people. That's why I'm giving it a play.
Oh yeah. I think you guys out there would know, just from playing it for 10 minutes, who you should recommend it to and who you should not.
Yeah, so if Caleb and I aren't unified on something going forward, we're going to give it a pass.
Yeah, and if worse comes to worse, we rock, paper, scissors on it anyway.
And that is the end of the X Factor discussion and our discussion on Spiritfarer. If you have any questions for us, obviously reach out on Twitter at XBlockPodcast and let us know what you think. Maybe there's 15 hours in some crazy thing that happens that totally turns the game around, and maybe I'm closer to that than Caleb, and who knows, maybe I'll get there.
By the way, I just want to throw it out there. If Jaren and I ever got like paid a substantial amount of money to review games, we would probably actually play them all the way through, or at least I would. I would actually beat Spiritfarer and give you like the legitimate review on it. But since this is just kind of our segment of the podcast, Jaren and I play it as long as we feel like we need to really give you an honest, humble opinion on it and what we think. We think you should try it, and it's kind of in the spirit of Game Pass, and whether you should just try it out, play it, or pass on it.
Yeah, I firmly believe that you should be able to hop into a game in Game Pass, play it. If you don't like it within the first hour, grab another game. That's kind of the point of this show. Caleb and I played a little longer than that to tell you if you should at least spend maybe 2 or 3 more hours trying to get into it, and maybe that's when it hits its point. But if it gets to 10 hours and we're not feeling a game, we're going to tell you to pass it.
Yeah, we don't have an infinite amount of time. And Jaren, since we're in the X Factor discussion, we got a little bit of time left. You mentioned Twitter. If people disagree with us, want to leave questions, comments about the show for our X Factor discussion, where else can people find us to do things like review and listen to the podcast?
Yeah, so you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox. Those are the main 3. YouTube is definitely one where you can go to YouTube. That also, if you leave a comment there, we have previously answered a comment that was left there in an episode. So if you leave a comment on our YouTube, just look up the X Block Podcast. And
yeah, we should all be the X Block Podcast and all those. That is the X Block Podcast.
Yep. So just look that up anywhere. If it's an we're at X Block Podcast. You can get rid of the. But if you have to look it up, the X Block Podcast will show up. It's in all our titles.
Yeah, you can leave us a nice review. You know, we mentioned Google Podcasts.
Oh, right? Yeah, Google Podcasts. That's the one I forgot.
Leave a nice review for us on Apple Podcasts. Lets us leave a like on our YouTube video. Helps us with the algorithms and all those things.
Yep. And feel free to tell us your opinion. You could love Spiritfarer, and honestly, I'd like to know if you have like things that the reviewers didn't say that really drawed you into the game that maybe I missed, feel free to let me know.
Yeah.
Now we're going to hop into the Game Pass or gameplay section, which Caleb gave you a brief talk about before. So essentially, like he said, we spin a wheel at the start of every month, this month being May. And when we spin that wheel of Game Pass games, it spits out a game, and Caleb and I play it for a certain amount of time. I'll try to put a little bit more time into this one, this upcoming one. I feel like both Caleb and I got a little distracted with things on the last one, but it also wasn't necessarily our kind of game.
Spiritfarer is a different kind of game. It's not the kind of game where you need to progress into it very far to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I understood it. I played to almost 10 hours.
Yeah. I feel like you understood it better than me, but I feel like I still got it where I was like, oh no, not for me.
Yeah, so we're going to play it till we pretty much have a firm stance on it, and then we'll give you our review. So yeah, so we're going to spin this fucking wheel, and it's going to spit out a game, and it's either going to ruin our night or make my morning.
Spin that wheel.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And there it is, Caleb.
Yo, what is it,
A
Jaron?
new game
Can't see
that
it.
we will be playing.
What is it?
It is, in fact, a game we can play together.
Whoa!
I'm building up a crazy amount of hype. We're still definitely going to have to play it on our alt accounts because there's no way we're getting the achievements.
No.
DayZ.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh Lord. Okay. You ever played Well, I've seen gameplay. I've seen like Let's Plays of it. You ever played it, Jared?
I have played it in the sense of when it used to be a mod for Arma 3 on PC.
There you go. If you're looking forward into jumping into DayZ and you're like, man, are the boys gonna recommend it? Stay tuned.
I have a feeling
for the first
we won't.
episode. Stay tuned for the first episode that drops in June. And Jaron and I are gonna let you know what we think about DayZ. And boy, this is our first. I think this is our first time we have a game that we can play together and tell you what we think about it.
Yeah, and we'll see if we can play it together. Who knows?
Our experiences will be shared, hopefully, and we'll give you updates as we go along. If you want to hear our Game Pass or gameplay reviews for things like Donut County or
Great
Dirt
game.
5,
Not so great.
our previous games, Game Pass or gameplay games, go listen to our previous podcast.
Yep. And now that is the end of Game Pass or gameplay. Looking forward to booting up DayZ and then getting booted into the earth by the people that have been playing it for the last year and a half.
Yeah, Jaron, more like DayZZZ, right? Like,
I'm asleep in the ground.
Yeah.
Moving on to the FAF. Now the FAF. It is essentially all the news that if you had to read it would be a waste of your time. It would be faff. So I'm here to tell you in a fun way and to make fun of it. That's pretty much it.
It's all the faff that you don't care about. Sometimes we do, and then you can laugh at us. But we usually don't, and so we laugh at you. Why do you care about this, you dork? What are you doing?
All right, Caleb, feel free to start us off.
The first faff topic that Jaron wrote in here is micro-faff.
Now, micro-faff, just talking about
What is
that
that?
Xbox news that wasn't good enough to be in the X block.
Okay.
And, of course, the number one FAF-related thing on the Xbox platform right now. Here are your Xbox games with gold for May 2021.
Oh, fucking God. All right.
Armello, Dungeons 3, Lego Batman the video game, and Tropico 4.
I ain't gonna lie though, Lego Batman, dude, haven't played it, but it sounds kind of hype. I'm not going to play it, but at least it's not a bad game, I'd assume.
Yeah, I assume these games aren't great, and the only way that you would play them as if, like Batman, someone killed your parents.
Yeah, as I say about games with gold games versus PlayStation Plus games, these game with gold games are not even comparable to how good the PlayStation Plus lineup is. But if you're on PlayStation, you don't have Game Pass. So there you go.
That's true. And speaking of things that were going to come to Game Pass, I believe, Fall Guys for Switch and Xbox has been delayed out of the summer.
Whoop.
So no information
That's no
on
good.
when it's coming, but it's been delayed.
It's no bueno.
Yeah, no bueno, but I guess what can you do? They're probably part of that 44% of people who had their games pushed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, here's honestly what I take as some good news. Fortnite isn't on Xbox Cloud Gaming because Epic won't allow it.
Oh, thank God. We saved the platform, Jaron. We saved this cloud surfers.
Now I'm going to tell you
We did
something that I've known all along in my heart, but now has been confirmed to my eyes. Fortnite on PS4 also earned almost 40% more than Fortnite on iOS between March 2018 and July 2024. So you guys on PS4 are just a bunch of fucking losers playing Fortnite.
July 2024? What do you mean?
July
What are the dates that
2020.
you said? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, bunch of nerds, man. They're like, yeah, PlayStation's the most profitable and popular platform for fucking Fortnite. And I'm like, that's not a good thing.
Why aren't you playing your fucking exclusives you guys are always telling me about?
The fuck's you playing Fortnite? Like, Minecraft's good. Minecraft's cool.
Returnal just came out. Go play that. Why are you playing Fortnite?
I don't know, man. Well, they couldn't. I guess they couldn't play Returnal before now, but it's still not a great. Like, what are you doing playing Fortnite? What are you doing? Listen to me. You out there. You hear me. I see you. Yeah. No, I see you. Yep.
Yeah, you.
What are you doing playing Fortnite? Okay.
Yeah, you put down that
controller. I saw
controller.
you playing Fortnite. I sure did. And you were out there playing it, right? Yeah, I did see you. Yeah, and you were like, oh my God, I'm number one. We won, guys. We did it. Yep. You're a fucking nerd. All right.
All right. Caleb, hit us up with the next one.
The Duty Department, my favorite recurring segment in the FAF. The Duty Department, underground, unplayable, uninformed. Subtitled just like your favorite Call of Duty franchises nowadays.
So let's start with Underground. Call of Duty Warzone Verdansk 84 glitch lets you go under the map, and it's a problem.
Okay, yeah, but Jaren, hear me out. They've got the fucking Crash 4 people on the job. Don't worry about it. You're never going to see these problems again.
The Crash 4 people, they're here to fix this. Raven is investigating a Warzone issue stopping some PC players from launching the game.
God, nah, dude. The Crash 4 people are on that now. Toys for Bob. They're going to fix this, dude. Don't worry about it.
So at least the console gaming community is safe from the PC players, but then half of you motherfuckers got under the map. So
I'm glad I don't play Warzone anymore.
Raven.
I mean, I played it when it came out. Right when it came out.
Yep, me too. We did both play it, but I'm also, for my sanity, I'm much happier now that Warzone is no longer in my life.
I'm retired, Jaren. I grew up. I went from 23 to 24.
Also, in the duty department, Raven has been hiring like crazy to support Warzone's explosive growth. So if you want a job, go work at Raven, because they don't know what they're doing either, so you might as well get paid.
Dude. You're not gonna be able to get under the map now, dude. The Raven people are gonna fix that. You're only gonna be able to hover 10,000 feet over the map. Don't worry about it. Toys for Bob guys got the under the map covered.
And I like how they immediately drive home that they don't know what they're doing. Call of Duty Warzone developer needs your help to make the game more accessible. That's your fucking job.
You guys get paid like tens of thousands of dollars each.
Why aren't you doing it? I don't want to do it. Fuck you.
Surely there's enough talent out there, Jaren. Surely there's enough money in the world to fix Warzone, isn't there?
No, I don't think there is. I really don't think there is. Not with the current people that they got working on it, because they don't seem to understand how to do it. And they also don't seem to understand their audience, Caleb, because lots of Call of Duty Warzone players want the original Gulag back. So I like how even current Call of Duty players...
I hated the original Gulag.
...have realized that the past is better than the present.
Yeah, finally, they're getting on board. They're like, this game used to be great. And you're like, God, you don't even know. You fucking child. You sweet summer child.
All right, Caleb, hit me with the next one.
A bright light in a sea of duty.
All right, now this one also has to do with Call of Duty, but it was so much better that I had to make it its own story.
It's a bright light, I can see.
Now, I've put something in the Discord, Caleb, for you to look at. Now, what Caleb is listening to at this current moment is T-Pain, and what you will be listening to soon. T-Pain is out here killing bitches in Call of Duty, absolutely fucking murking them, all because they're saying racist things to him, and he's not having it. And for that, T-Pain is a bright light in a sea of shitty Call of Duty games and shitty people who play them. And now, the T-Pain audio. Enjoy.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
One of these motherfuckers is on that shit, and I want all of them.
Yeah, man. Bad thing.
I want every single fucking one of them.
Flash myself.
I want every fucking single one of them. I want it all. I want it all. I want every part of it. I want a part of it. I want the whole thing. I want the whole thing. Keep talking that I want you to delete the black skins from your motherfucking COD. I want the whole thing. I want it all. I want it all, boy. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, looks like the win. Stupid idiots.
Dude, T-Pain just like fucking dropped the hammer on those guys. Jesus Christ, bro. He dropped in and said, I'm T-Pain, you know me.
There you go. There's Caleb's live reaction to the clip.
I was hot, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I now know that map. And another reason I feel like I should play Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is because there's so many articles. It's like such a good, like, topic and headline, by the way, for, like writing articles for a news site now that I freelance and shit. There's just a lot of articles to write about it. And now I understand the game a little more, like I saw that map and I'm like, oh, I know that map now. That's cool. So just something else I noticed.
Yep. And now hit us with the next one, Caleb.
The next one. The diamonds that came from the duty. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Respawn has won an Oscar for the Medal of Honor documentary.
Oh, really? They did?
Yep.
Good for them.
Also in Respawn-related news, Titanfall 2 sees Steam resurgence with active players up 750%. People finally figured out Titanfall 2 was good.
Yeah, was it given away on Steam, or did people play it on Steam? Like, what happened? Did it get put on Steam?
It started shooting up, and then just like naturally, I think it started shooting up. They may have added it to Steam, but I believe it was already there. It started shooting up, and then they've made it free to play since then, and it's continued to skyrocket.
I think it got skyrocketed because there was some sort of like news announcement thing that Respawn was working on another Apex Legends or some other game, right? That was somehow tied to Titanfall, maybe? I may be misremembering some shit, but anywho, that's cool, because Titanfall 2 multiplayer is 100% way better than whatever multiplayer you're playing right now. Unless you're playing Halo MCC.
The last of the Respawn news, they have confirmed that they're working on an original game. So a nice new IP coming from Respawn.
There it is.
Excited about that. So get ready. I'm excited. Respawn used to make Call of Duty. That's why they're the diamond that came from the duty.
Indeed.
Now hit me with the next one, Caleb.
Liars, criminals, and extortion?
Doom Eternal has added paid skins, despite previous assurances it wouldn't.
Aw, come on, Bethesda, what are you doing? I thought we were over this. Come on now. Microsoft bought you, boys. Come on now.
Obviously, it's nothing super invasive, but don't go back on your promises. Otherwise, us here on the X Block, gonna call you liars.
We're gonna start shitting on you now. Now, we like Doom. Jaren played Doom Eternal, loved it. I played Doom 2016, loved it. Don't make us come out there for you, Brandon. We're gonna come in on the X Block every week and start shitting on some fools, all right? Don't do it.
And now moving on to the criminals. Ubisoft hostage-taking hoax. Alleged suspect is a Rainbow Six Siege cheater. So
I saw that. Ubisoft Montreal, right?
Yeah, they had this whole hoax a while ago where people thought there was a hostage situation and the police responded and all that kind of stuff. Turns out it was a suspected cheater in Rainbow Six, and it hasn't been said why he's done this, but I assume it's probably because they banned his little bitch ass.
Yeah, dude, fucking got him.
So, yeah, Ubisoft came for you. Now the police are coming for you. Soon a man in your cell will be coming for you.
Got him.
And the last, touching in on extortion, Riot shuts down League of Legends fan game after creators say Riot tried to extort them. And this is one of the exact quotes from it. One of the guys at Riot said, "You obviously put a lot of work into Chrono Shift, but I can assure you that Chrono Break is coming." And they were kind of like trying to threaten them and like extort them to like do certain things and just kind of move out of the way so that they could bring their own game out. And to that, I say, fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Let your fans make their fan games.
Yeah. Come on, be nice. Everybody just be nice, all right? Jaren, be nice to people.
All right.
Come on now.
And our last one, Caleb.
One sentence reactions.
One of Caleb's favorites.
Yeah, it's sometimes not.
The Queen's Golden Wii is up for sale if you have a spare $300,000.
World's most expensive dildo.
That's true. You got the motion controller going back and forth.
You got something.
Google Stadia, from the company that revolutionized search bar engines, finally has a search bar, and it's terrible.
That doesn't surprise me.
Fair enough. Man arrested for allegedly attempting to assassinate Genshin Impact studio founders.
What do they make again? The Genshin. What is that?
It's like what that weird mobile game that I think is also big on PlayStation now. I have no idea. It's one of those like nonsense fucking stupid games.
I guess my only reaction would be, what did he try to use?
The man was reportedly armed with a knife and managed to infiltrate the MiHoYo building before he was apprehended on April 24th.
Well, I'm glad that he was stopped and that no one died. But, like, he didn't even try. He was like, knife. Like, that's it. No crossbow, hand grenade, like, nothing.
Hand grenade.
Didn't even get creative with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad no one got hurt, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I tried to kill somebody with a knife. It's like, yeah, you and fucking 10 million other people, dude.
Yeah, unless he's like a legit ninja, where he like throws it and takes him out.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'm glad no one got hurt legitimately, because that would suck to get killed by a knife stab wound, but that guy is just lame in more ways than one.
And the last one, I'm going to do the one sentence reaction for this one. And it's a very simple one. The Madden cover athlete. People have been like gambling on who it's going to be. And everyone's saying it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. But you know who I think it should be? Our boy, Keenan Allen, who hates fucking Madden.
Yeah, that guy. I remember Keenan Allen. Was he from our first episode?
I think he's from he's either from our unreleased episode or our very first episode. But that guy,
oh God, shout out
to
the unreleased episode. Yeah.
And I want him to be the cover athlete of Madden.
Oh man, I can't remember if that was in our first unreleased one, but Jaren's right. I want that guy's face front and plastered to be our spokesperson for Madden.
With his quote directly underneath of, "It's shit."
Game shit.
That's all he said. It's shit.
I remember that.
And that,
dude, if he's on the cover though, it's not going to be shit.
That's true. At least the box will be good.
No, the cover will be great. But yeah.
And that's all for the X Block today, episode X.
Yeah, X gonna give it to you. Don't forget. Big ups.
Yep.
Big ups to DMX, dude. Never forget.
Shout out DMX. Never forget, my boy. And that's all for the show. If you want to find us anywhere, you can go to Twitter at XBlockPodcast. You can go to Instagram at XBlockPodcast. You can go to TikTok at XBlockPodcast, where you can hear Caleb and I sing Best of Both Worlds.
By Hannah Montana, dude. That TikTok. Jared makes great TikToks, by the way. Really well edited. And that recent one he made this week, dude, was hot. You got to go check it out. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it did pretty well in the TikToks, too. If you want to head over there, share it, make it do even better. Maybe you can get it up to 1 million views.
Yeah.
Put us really on the map.
Yeah.
And you can find us at YouTube, the X Block Podcast. Check it up there. We always upload our episodes to YouTube, so feel free to go watch those. Leave a like. Caleb, tell them about our Patreon.
Dude, patreon.com/xblockpodcast. You can go over there. Leave us $1, $2, as much as you would like if you want to leave us anything. And we will put that money back into the show because Jaren, my friend Jaren over here, edits the podcast every week on his lonesome. And he has a shitty old laptop, and it is not good, and it makes the process take way longer. And we need to get Jaren a brand new PC. So if you want to go over to Patreon, leave us a few bucks. Jaren, what's our motto?
The only tiers on our Patreon are mine when I edit the podcast.
So please, if you want, go over there, help Jaren out. Like, honest to God. Like, not even like, oh, ha, like, no, like, seriously. Like, he kind of does need a PC. Like, it would really help.
I'm hoping for my birthday.
Yeah, well, that'll be nice, too. If that happens, then we can find something else to reinvest into the podcast or something. But yeah, that's a big step, and we're hoping. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And if you want to hear the podcast on a different platform than you're listening to it right now, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Castbox, a bunch of other smaller ones, YouTube, as we mentioned. Basically,
we might as well be everywhere.
Yeah, we might as well be everywhere. Anywhere that you care to listen to a podcast, we're there. And if we're not there, then it's dumb.
If you want to listen to us on Patreon itself, Jaren posts the podcast over there on Patreon. Patreon.com/xblockpodcast. Go give them a listen.
Yep.
You can download them, everything.
And that's all for today.
It's a good one, man. Episode X. It only happens once, and it happened.
It happened, it came, it went, and now X Block out.
Thanks for listening to the X Block. New episodes every Monday at 5 a.m.